Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Malicious Compliance. In today's episode, the end to a free decade of Netflix. Force me to do karaoke? Sure, let me choose the song. Baby's first malicious compliance. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. The end to a free decade of Netflix. Between 8 and 10 years ago, I received an email welcoming me to Netflix. That was a bit concerning since I hadn't signed up, so I contacted the company. They told me someone must have accidentally used my email when they created an account. Our last names were the same and our first initial. I said, "Oh, no problem, you must have additional contact information for them besides my email. Could you please remove my email from the account and let them know so they can fix?" Well, immediately that was a big problem for Netflix, and no, they couldn't remove the email because it was the only one they had for the account, and how did they even know that it was mine? I said, "Give me your email address and start talking, I will email you the words as they come out of your mouth." That wasn't good enough for proof somehow. More likely I was in the other person's Gmail account asking to not have Netflix? What they finally ended up doing was changing the account password so that when the customer went to log back in they wouldn't be able to and would need to do a password reset by calling Netflix, and then they would confirm the email address. I kept getting Netflix emails, so that didn't work. I called again, same again, didn't work. I changed the password several times myself because I could use the forgot password function and get an email to reset it, that didn't work. I don't know how they kept getting the new password without updating an email address, and I didn't really care at this point. For the last 8 to 10 years I have had Netflix on everything I own. I have signed in on hotel televisions, used it on my phone, my Xboxes, my kid uses it. I only ever signed in under family and told him to do the same. The entire history in family is us. The other logins, Fred, Softy, and Lila, accumulated history. I would occasionally look because, curious. Never did a single new show appear in the family watch history that wasn't because of me. Well, I woke up this morning to an email from Netflix telling me that this email address was no longer associated with that account and if I had any questions, etc. Thank you, Softy. It has been an amazing run and I am not sure why you gave me free Netflix for the last decade, but I think you are amazing. I've got the same problem with my email tied to some little old lady's home shopping network account. She's recently taken up watercolors. I'm glad she's got a hobby. That is adorable. I would be so tempted to go to a site that she has used and order her some extra paints or brushes. Sounds like you did everything you could to correct the mistake and neither the account holder nor Netflix did anything to fix it. As far as I'm concerned, you were in the clear to use their Netflix, good for you. Money shows up at your doorstep. You do your due diligence. Go to the cops and they let you keep the money. Presumably they had a device that was logged in and never once lost access and therefore never needed the password. Kind of impressive. Among the early emails I received from Netflix was one saying that because I used some cable/phone company, I was receiving free Netflix. Maybe they logged in through that? Would have been funny to change all of the icons to change your fin email. I once logged into another user profile named "Don't Change Your Password." Well, I did immediately. Someone was hacking it from Georgia, the country. LOL, I remember reading about someone's ex having a profile called Settings. I've gotten Cheryl's cookies in the mail every holiday for the last 2.5 years. They're being sent to the right address. No one by that name has ever lived here. I've done everything I can to try and correct the issue, but I stopped worrying around the 5th delivery. Looking forward to my Easter cookies next week. The only difference between my address and an address a few blocks down the road from me is that mine has S in it and theirs has N. I get their Christmas presents every year and assorted mail, and I go drop them off at the right address. I always wonder if they steal my packages, lol. There's a staff sergeant out there with my same last name and first initial. I'm assuming his personal email is close to mine because his captain has been emailing me presentations to edit for 2 years. At first I told him wrong guy, but they kept coming. So I started editing. Some of them were really bad, so I redid them and provided copious notes. Since I kept getting them, I'm assuming he uses them. One day soon either the staff sergeant or the captain is going to leave that duty station and this part of my life will end. He's learning though. What used to take me a couple hours can be done in 10 minutes now. I logged into Disney Plus a few days ago after being away from it for a week or two. I binged WandaVision and was about to start Falcon plus WS, and I noticed that the first episode had already been watched. I then noticed a bunch of shit had been watched that was not in my sphere of interest. I then noticed a whole new profile when I backed out. I panicked, changed my password, logged out of everything. LMAO. Sorry, Daniel. I bought a car from a salvage yard, hail damaged salvage title ECT, 3RD car I've bought from them. If the car has XM radio, they pay for a year subscription when you buy. A year later, you sign up or the radio goes dead. Except I guess, since they deal in a lot of these salvages, they just buy a blanket license from XM and remove sold vehicles from the database for next year's subscription. My last car was never removed. 5 years later, still free XM. Some cars also had a buy for life XM radio option. My dad bought one of those years ago, and now my sister has the old car without having to worry about annual costs. I worked for Netflix many years ago. After 6 months, I got a free DVD player and free account. I quit at 7 months because they were automating. It took them 6 years to shut off my account. Now I have to pay like the rest of you plebs. Force me to do karaoke? Sure, let me choose the song. Hi everybody, this is not the biggest malicious compliance, but it always makes me smile. Some years ago my friends and I started attending another friend's parties. Her parents have a big house with a ballroom. There's a stage and a pretty good stereo with karaoke, and if you had not guessed it, she loves to sing and is a decent singer. She then decided that there should be a competition and everyone must join. I tried to tell her that I'm not a singer and to me that would just be humiliating. She didn't care cause everyone must join. Fine, but I want to choose the song. When it was my turn I went up there, then put on Polyphia at GOAT. For those that don't know, Polyphia is an instrumental band and there is no singer. Just as it started, 2 to 3 people recognized the song and cheered. I guess they figured out my plan, so I stood up there acting like I waited for the singing part to start and would a few times take up the microphone to fake the song starting, only to take it back down. When I was done I just casually waved to everybody and walked down. She was pissed. How dare I mock her? I just calmly said that I'm not a singer and that's the best I can do. Well, she ended up winning the contest since she was the only one who cared and most people would just vote for her. 2 weeks later she had another party and I was strictly informed that if I wanted to join I had to choose a sing that had lyrics. Fine, I'll choose a song. Then it was my turn and I put on Tequila. So I just stood up there looking as awkward as I was able to. Then when it was time I did a power pose, or at least attempt LOL, and shouted Tequila. I shouted as hard as I could so I didn't even use the microphone. Well, once again she was kinda angry but then told me that if I really didn't want to sing then I didn't have to. I thanked her and went down to my buddies to celebrate. I expected Tequila. I considered many songs, but Tequila was the most fun I could think of. She was smart to stop me after 2 times, cause next time I would have chosen some death metal and absolutely destroyed my voice for a week to make a point. Haha, laughing face. Next time, do Wipeout by the Surfaris. One word, right at the beginning. Could have easily clinched the victory with Baby Shark. If she pulls this again, do the Mana Mana song. Bonus, no one will be able to get it out of their heads for hours. I'm actually kinda sad that there isn't going to be another time. I'd have recommended The Greatest Show on Earth by Nightwish. It's mostly instrumental and the majority of lyrics are spoken rather than sung. The singing parts it does have could easily be butchered to help drive home the point. But the real kick in the pants is that it's 24 minutes long, during which no one else is able to compete, almost certainly throwing a wrench into her schedule. Plus, there's a section where you get to grunt like a gorilla for a bit. There's also a point about 17 minutes in where anyone who hasn't heard it before is going to think it's over, so you'd get the pleasure of telling her to sit back down and keep waiting. 4 feet 33 inches by John Cage would also be an excellent choice. Baby's first malicious compliance. Alright. I was telling a friend this story and she pushed me to share, so I hope this counts. The year was 2000 and I was 9 years old. For context, I'm the oldest of 6, Mom was ready to pop out the 4th at the time, and it was a very hot July day. So my brother, 7 at the time, and I were fighting over a box of crackers on the kitchen counter. Why were we on the kitchen counter? Who knows, but I'm sure at the time, it seemed like a great place to fight over a box of Cheez-Its. So I'm trying to pull the box away from him, he's trying to pull the box away from me, and eventually, he gets the grand idea to push me off the counter. I go tumbling and land hard on my right arm, and even though I was only 9, I'd already broken a leg, my other arm, and all of the toes in both my feet. I knew what a broken bone felt like, and I was positive that my arm was broken. The problem was I felt almost no pain due to a very high pain tolerance from my rough and tumble childhood. To this day, I have a stupidly high pain tolerance. So, I know my arm is broken. I can't move it properly, I can't make a fist, and I can't use my fingers. So I go to my mom, who's trying to keep cool from both the weather and my second brother growing inside her, and say, "Mom, I need you to take me to the doctors. My arm is broken and I need a cast." Now, my mom would later become not so great, but at the time, she was still a pretty okay mom. And looking back on it, I can't really blame her for not believing me at the time. So she shooed me away and said, "I don't want to hear anything about your arm. You're fine. Stop bothering me." Okay then, I'm a good daughter. I will not bother my mom about my arm anymore. The rest of the day goes by with me playing around with my broken arm. I'm holding it up with my other arm while watching T.V, I'm holding onto the swing with one hand, and I'm trying to teach myself how to write with my left hand, because who knows how long it will take to heal a broken arm without a doctor. Finally, I have to go to my mom because I need to go to the bathroom and I can't unbutton my jeans without both my hands. She's been getting more and more annoyed with me as she's watched me baby my arm all day, and she finally snaps at me, telling me that she'll take me to the doctor, but if my arm isn't broken, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. I agree, not too worried, because I know my arm is broken, and we head to the hospital. The entire ride is spent with my mother coming up with more and more detailed threats. If we get to the doctors, they're going to give you a big shot. I hate needles, but again, I know my arm is hurt, so I insist we keep going. We finally get to the hospital and the nurse says, "Oh, her arm isn't broken. But we'll give her an X-ray just to humor her." Guess what? A complete forearm break. Mom felt horrible and bought me pizza and candy, something we almost never got, and I didn't have to share any of it. So yeah, I don't know if this really counts as true malicious compliance, but I like to think of it as baby's first steps towards being the sarcastic lil shit I am today. I went through the same thing with my mom. I'd had a head-on collision with another kid on a bicycle and my right arm hurt. My mother, the RN, insisted it could not be broken because I could move my fingers, but it ached and ached. Days later, Mom got tired of me whining about it and agreed to take me to the doctor. Along the way she informed me that if my arm wasn't broken, I'd have to pay the doctor out of my allowance, a whole 25 cents a week. We get to the doctor's office, they did the X-ray, and sure enough, my arm is broken, a non-displaced fracture. Smart little me got the satisfaction of hearing the doctor dress down my mother, especially since she was a nurse and should have known better. I got a cool cast and got out of phys ed for 2 months. Oh, the bicycle was totaled, the frame was bent that bad. I had a similar story. My hand and arm were crushed by a tire on the way to church camp. I told them it hurt, but they said I was fine. It was 4 days before I got home and my dad noticed my arm and took me to the hospital. He was livid. It was broken in 11 places. The camp nurse said she didn't think it was broken because I wasn't crying when I told her. My dad went off on her for what felt like an hour. The camp nurse said she didn't think it was broken because I wasn't crying when I told her. What even? Good on your dad. All the bad parenting stories here are making me sad, so here's a story about my parents doing the opposite. When I was about 8 years old, I started complaining of extreme leg pain. I could still walk. After complaining for 2 days, my parents were concerned I had a fracture, so they took me for an x-ray. Turns out I just had some extreme growing pains. My parents were so proud that I told them when I was in pain. I had bad FOMO as a child, so I hid any problems in fear of being made to sit out, that they took me for ice cream. My mom's bones grew faster than her ligaments as a kid, mostly in her legs, and there were times she could barely walk from it. Good for you, insisting while doing your best to adhere to your mom's directive. Glad you got the treatment you needed. Both mom and nurse could have used a good toe stomp. You probably have the genes associated with extreme pain tolerance, called congenital analgesia. Also, the redhead gene, MC1R, is associated with higher pain tolerance. As a ginger, my nemesis will always be dentists who don't believe that I need more Novocaine than the average patient. The studies on redheads and pain are wild. I broke my knee when I was 10, and since I didn't cry, no one believed me. I walked home from school, about a mile, and after a full week, my mom finally gave in and I went to the doctor. She ended up bawling and I got to wear a cast from my hip to my ankle for 1.5 months and go to physical therapy to learn to walk again. She took me in immediately when I broke my hand a few years later though, so win. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.